Live from downtown Macon, this is WGXA News live on YouTube.
Good evening, Middle Georgia. I'm Amanda Peralta.
I'm Greg Lloyd. We thank you for watching WGXA News at 5:30. We start with breaking news tonight. The search for a missing swimmer in the Ocmulgee River in Macon has ended.
First responders recovered his body this afternoon after a 3-day search. Brianna Cook has been at Emerson River State Park throughout the day and joins us live with new information just in. Brianna.
The body of a man who went missing while floating down the Ocmulgee River was found, and officials say his body was found not far from where he disappeared. Today was the third day rescuers searched the water of the Ocmulgee River. Witnesses say 20-year-old Raymond Ellison Jr. was last seen on Sunday floating in an inner tube along the river, and when they looked away and looked back, he wasn't there. No witnesses actually saw him go into the river. His body was recovered around 2 p.m. on today. Macon-Bibb County Fire Chief Shane Edwards says that Ellison was found close to the spot where he disappeared. Rescuers had to suspend their searches both Sunday and Monday nights due to darkness, resuming at sunrise the next morning. Edwards says the search took several days due to the layout of the river, and he also stressed the importance of life vests.
We've been a couple of days now and searching some areas on the river. Unfortunately, with different pockets in the area, it was kind of arduous to locate where he was located. Please do not get in the river without a personal flotation device. Very, very important. Even if you think you know how to swim, the currents in this river are deceiving. So many times, children, adults as well, will come off of a flotation device, think they can touch, and they can. They can take one step to the right or left or forward and unfortunately be in water that is over their head.
His family has been along the riverbank since the search started Sunday night. Today's search was assisted by the Georgia State Patrol and their helicopter and the Natural Resources, Department of Resources. This is the second drowning this month at the Ocmulgee River. Back in February, a 22-year-old drowned. Macon leaders have put in safety precautions to help prevent this. Reporting live at the Ocmulgee River, Brianna Cook, WGXA News.
WGXA is working to learn more about a deadly Memorial Day shooting in Houston County. According to Coroner James Williams, one person was shot and killed on Wyndon Way just before 1 yesterday afternoon. Williams says the victim died on scene and that Warner Robins Police is currently investigating.
And another shooting takes a life in Sumter County. The GBI and Sumter County deputies are asking for your help to find out who shot 2 people at the American Legion Club on Highway 20 just after 1 Monday morning. One of the victims died from their injuries, and the GBI says there were numerous witnesses and is asking for anyone with any information to speak up.
And please take a good look at these people. Authorities in Perry are working to find them. They say they stole from the One Stop Mart on Perry Parkway. They say it happened just before 4 this morning, and that they were able to get away with over $1,000 worth of merchandise. If you recognize these men or know anything about the case, please contact Macon Regional Crime Stoppers.
And 4 people are behind bars in connection to a child exploitation case out of Butts County. The GBI says they were arrested following tips from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Heather Clark is facing production and distribution of child pornography charges. April Burns is accused of making false statements and being a party to the crime. Brianna Jones is also facing child molestation charge in connection to the case. Christopher Taylor and Heather Clark are attempted to flee to South Carolina, but they were arrested there and they await extradition back to Butts County.
The final defendant in a Middle Georgia meth ring has pleaded guilty in court. Investigators say Tamara Hall worked with Ontario Veal's drug ring out of Warner Robins. They say all 11 co-conspirators trafficked kilograms of meth out of Atlanta and into the mid-state. 40-year-old Hall will spend the next 17 years and a half behind bars before she's on supervised release. Veal was sentenced to 35 years in prison for operating the ring.
The country saw a violent kickoff to the unofficial start to the summer season. Many of the crimes shared a common thread. Kayla Gaskins joins us with that story from Washington.
crowds of young people causing chaos this holiday weekend.
Oh my God, so many people got shot. Oh my God.
In Hollywood, Florida, 9 people shot. The violence reportedly started with several young men fighting. Then one pulled out a gun.
It was a scary scene to roll into, and I don't care how desensitized you are by media and TV, to really see it firsthand. Everyone was mortified.
Police in Massachusetts detaining several juveniles in connection to a shooting near Revere Beach. Police say shots were fired into a group of young people during a fight.
Oh,
In San Clemente, California, off-duty Marines attacked by nearly 40 teens. This on a weekend meant to honor those who give their lives for our country. Last week, a festival outside Chicago canceled for safety concerns following a chaotic flash mob involving hundreds of teenagers. Data shows this type of youth violence started trending upwards in 2020 when homicides committed by multiple juveniles rose 66% compared with the year before.
In the post-COVID world, we are definitely seeing more of this. Whether it's being driven by whatever happened to young people during COVID or not is really not for me to say, but a long period of time being out of school, out of a structured environment, and you just have to wonder what impact that had on young people.
Law enforcement experts pointing out police shortages and the reduction of penalties for juveniles who commit crimes likely also contributes to the increasing frequency of youth mob violence. And summer is just beginning. As the school year ends, law enforcement agencies are bracing for what the coming months may bring. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
A beautiful day across middle Georgia with comfortable temperatures, but the humidity has begun to tick up. That means my hair is going to start.
Meteorologist Ryan Miranda joins us down. He's saying that it seems like it's going to feel like summer without the heat.
Yeah,
Ryan.
it is, Greg. We're not really going to get any of that scorching heat with the 90s, but we are going to have the uptick in the humidity, and that does come with some rain chances as well. Most of us are dry at this point. We do have one pretty good downpour, though, coming up over Washington County. Pretty good, some of this downpour right over Deep Step. This is headed to the southwest, about to cross over into 24 here over the next 10 or so minutes. But a beautiful day out over Macon. A live look out there with our Wilson Bryant Heating and Air Skycast Network. Temperatures mostly into the mid 80s today, but the dew points have begun to tick up. We were mostly in the mid 50s over the weekend. Some of us now are into the low 60s. It's not the sweltering humidity outside, but it definitely is a little bit more of that uptick of the more muggy feeling than what we had really over the weekend. So it's a comfortable rest for your Tuesday night. 82 degrees at 7 o'clock, 73 by 10 o'clock, and we're mostly dry at this point, but there is one system that we're keeping an eye on in the Gulf of Mexico. I'll tell you everything you need to know about this storm, and as we head into the weekend, the first one of June, all coming up in your full forecast. Greg, Amanda.
All right, thanks, Ryan. It's a great time to download that WGXA weather app. Ryan's back in less than 20 minutes with your 10-day forecast. Georgia Power is celebrating today after they hit yet another key milestone toward Plant Vogtle becoming fully operational. Unit 3 is the first of 2 additional nuclear reactors being built at the plant. Yesterday, Unit 3 reached an output of 1,100 megawatts, enough to power 500,000 homes. Once Georgia Power completes testing on the newly operational unit, it will enter commercial operation. That's expected to happen sometime next month. Unit 4 remains under construction and is expected to go live late this year or early next year.
If Memorial Day weekend is any indication, summer will be a busy travel season. The Transportation Security Administration says more than 12 million people were screened beginning on Thursday. That surpasses pre-pandemic 2019 by about 180,000 passengers. The busiest day was Friday with nearly 3 million travelers.
Gas prices in middle Georgia are slowly climbing, but get this, it's outpacing the national average. That's according to Gas Buddy data that shows the average price in Macon has risen almost 4 cents in the last week. Today's average price is $3.21 a gallon. The national average is $3.55, but the price is only up by less than 3 cents from last week.
Gas Buddy analyst Patrick Dehan says he expects the summer national average to remain between $3.35 and $3.85, but says refinery outages, a hurricane, or other economic factors could change that. He adds that prices may temporarily rally if the debt deal passes Congress soon.
Decades ago, a Georgia boy was sent to fight in the Korean War. He would never make it home, but he was never forgotten. It's taken 73 years for his remains to be identified.
On Memorial Day, he made his final journey home for his family to lay him to rest. The Andersonville National Cemetery. Our Gloria Ruth Finney was at the service that honored the soldier killed in the line of duty and his long ride home.
73 years after Private First Class Luther Story was last seen alive, his remains have been buried with his name. While fighting during an attack from the enemy in the Korean War, he was wounded. In an effort to not hinder his comrades, Story stayed behind, covering his company's withdrawal. But his own story continues today, as relatives and descendants were joined by guests remembering his devotion to duty. His great-nephew, Matthew Swainer, recalls the tales of Story's bravery. And thanks to DNA technology, Story's remains have been identified after his niece, Judy Wade, submitted her own DNA samples.
Just last month she called me and said, and just was overjoyed that they had found him.
This Memorial Day, after all of these years, Luther Story was finally given a proper burial. Taps played on trumpet, an American flag placed over his casket, supporters silent in respect, as a nod from above was seen as 2 Black Hawk helicopters flew over. 146 Medals of Honor were issued for service in the Korean War. 103 of those were issued after death, including that of Story's.
On September 1st, 1950, the Korean War was raging. And on that day, at the age of 19, Corporal Story earned the Medal of Honor.
Governor Brian Kemp says this Memorial Day is extraordinarily special and one that will not be forgotten.
Look, we don't forget. We're never going to forget. And it's a great day.
And in your Georgia news, former First Lady Rosalind Carter is diagnosed with dementia. The Carter Center says the 95-year-old Mrs. Carter, quote, continues to live happily at home with her husband. Former President Jimmy Carter began receiving hospice care at home in Georgia in February. In a statement, the Carter family notes Rosalind Carter's work to decrease stigma about issues surrounding mental health. They say they hope sharing the family's news will lead to more important conversations across the country.
On the road to getting a contentious spending bill passed, the first stop was the House Rules Committee.
If the legislation is going to be blocked, this is where it could happen. Christine Frizzell brings us up to speed.
Well, I'm glad the speaker's here today.
Despite the stops and starts, negotiations between President Joe Biden and Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy were only Chapter 1. Selling the bill to the disparate edges of each party is the latest challenge.
Not one Republican should vote for this deal. It is a bad deal.
This is about folks like the hard right of the Republican Party coming after a chunk of funding from the IRS so they can let their billionaire buddies off the hook who are cheating on taxes.
For the White House, which initially insisted there would be no negotiations on raising the debt limit, reaching a deal was the cost of doing business in Washington.
It's the nature of governing that you have to compromise, and we think that we struck a fair compromise here.
That compromise, named the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2023, puts a freeze on most non-military spending for 2 years, redirects billions of dollars in IRS funding and unspent COVID money, adds work requirements for some receiving federal benefits, and most importantly, raises the debt limit until January of 2025. But by how much? No one knows. A sticking point for Republicans who say they'll vote no.
Tomorrow's bill hands Biden a blank check as it doesn't actually set a debt limit. This is an unlimited debt increase.
But Speaker Kevin McCarthy spent the day continuing to make the hard sell.
If people are against saving all that money or work reforms in welfare reform, I can't do anything about it.
At least some members of the Rules Committee falling in line.
Indeed, this is the most consequential spending reduction bill in more than a decade.
This bill could have been a lot more awful than it is.
Despite rumblings from members of both parties, House leadership has set a final vote on the bill for Wednesday night. And if it passes, it will then move on to the Senate. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzell.
The official start to the hurricane season starts on Thursday, and there is one area that we're keeping an eye on in the tropics. It's X marks the spot, an area through the Gulf of Mexico that has a 10% chance of formation over the next 2 days and about a 20% chance over the next 7. Now, even if this doesn't form into a named storm, it will most likely be impacting Florida with some heavy downpours. Once it passes over Florida, it looks to move out over the Atlantic, so most likely will not be impacting us. But if this does turn into a named storm, it will be our first one of the season. It will be called Arlene, and these are really the list of the names that we have for 2023. We've got Don, Emily, Jose, Nigel, Sean, all the way down to Whitney being the last name. And if we manage to use up all of these names for this year, we do have another supplemental list of extra names in case we completely fill up the list. This month, though, temperatures have been mostly below average. We've had now 21 days of temperatures being below average, only 6 being above. So the high average temperature for the whole month running around 4 degrees below where we should be, and likely the last day of May will also be a blue one. What's going to be ticking up, though, is the humidity. Dew points today are in the low 60s. I think they'll be into the mid 60s really Wednesday through Sunday for the next 5 days. So we're not going to have that sweltering summer humidity, but it definitely is going to feel more noticeable as that more muggy air mass begins to really sit over top of us. For the rest of tonight, though, temperatures will be dropping down into the low 60s, 63 degrees here in Macon under partly cloudy skies. It will be a comfortable night for us tonight. And tomorrow, there will be a few more clouds than we have for today. 67 degrees, that was 7 o'clock, 79 by 1, reaching a high of 84 degrees. That's again 5 degrees below average. We could have some isolated scattered storms through the afternoon just to keep an eye on. Not going to have any wash out of the days, and rain chances will likely stay on the lower end. We really do have some sort of rain chance over the next 10 days, but not expecting any days to have some widespread rain. Just going to have some isolated storms and showers really mainly throughout the afternoon hours. So in your 10-day forecast, not a lot of summer heat on the way. Temperatures slowly tick up, but the humidity and the rain chances are really more the big story. Tomorrow, a few more clouds than we had today with some isolated PM storms. The high only 84 degrees. It's 5 degrees below average. Temperatures begin to come up, but so does that humidity. Partly cloudy on Thursday. That's the first day of June. Not really feeling like summer. 86 degrees for the high on Friday. We still have that more humid air mass in place, 87 degrees. And the first weekend of June is looking relatively nice. Again, rain chances aren't 0, but they're on the much lower end. It's muggy on Saturday, mostly cloudy, 88 degrees. On Sunday, mainly sunny, 86. Then heading back to work next week, still going to have that warm and muggy air mass over top. Temperatures starting to feel more summer-like, 88 degrees next Monday and 89 on Tuesday with some isolated storms. Lastly, here's your Harrison's Body Shop Fish and Game forecast. Peaks in the good category, 11:40 a.m. and 6 p.m.
Well, we've made our way into the summer season, which means hot temperatures, and many families are turning on that AC.
For one Middle Georgia veteran, he's been facing 2 battles heading into summer: stage 4 colon cancer and no AC. And tonight in this Middle Georgia Proud moment, one of those battles is being taken care of.
Carlos Stevens joins us from his house with that story.
Guys, the couple in this home right behind me have been without air since last year, but thanks to a local Warner Robins business, they're back cool again. James Williams is a proud United States Air Force veteran who is battling stage 4 colon cancer, who's currently on chemotherapy. Williams says doctors only gave him a few months to live. While the cancer battle has been rough on his family, he's focused on the positive.
Man don't put you here on the earth, so he can't set your time here. I work out with a couple of guys that are survivors, and they're thriving, so I figured, hey, I can thrive too.
The Williams have been facing another battle too. Their AC stopped working last summer. They were trying to figure out a way to get it fixed before another hot Middle Georgia summer settled in.
I told my husband, I said, this one came up first. And I said, and they said, we care. I said, so I'm going to call them and see do they care.
Turns out it wasn't just a slogan. His wife says We Care Heating and Air actually does care. They didn't qualify for financing, so the company stepped up, giving the Williams family a brand new HVAC system. We Care Heating and Air President and General Manager Joshua Jacobs heard about the amazing man Williams is, not only fighting for our country, but blessing others along the way. Jacobs had to help and reminds companies they shouldn't forget people in their community that may need a helping hand.
Sometimes we forget, where to put those resources that we have in the community for all the companies out there, and you forget about some of these families that are struggling, that have done a lot and just maybe can't afford some of the things that they need to make themselves and their health and their life better, and to be able to be out here and be able to help them means the world to us.
Williams is used to serving his country, but he says it's hard to describe being on the other side of service.
Yeah, I'm just kind of overwhelmed with the blessing of it all.
While the new HVAC system was installed for free, the value of it is $12,000. Reporting in Warner Robins, I'm Carlos Stevens, WGXA News.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gary Thigpen, and I'm here again this afternoon at the Audubon Animal Rescue in Macon-Bibb County. I'm joined again today with Allison and also Lisa. And guess who we're going to showcase today? Gene. Tell us about Gene.
Gene is a wonderful dog. He's just very excited right now.
Very.
But he walks on a leash. He's very trained, housebroken, good with people, good with other dogs. He's the perfect companion. He's just excited to meet his forever person.
Yeah, exactly right. And boy, now how old is Gene?
Gene is approximately, what was that?
He's a couple of years old.
He's a couple of years old. He's very well trained. He doesn't even bark that loud. He's just an all-around sweet dog. Please give him a forever home.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that today in Georgia. And if someone would like to adopt Gene, remember, they're fully vetted, ready to go. How would they go about doing that?
They go on Facebook to All About Animals Rescue in Macon and send a message, and one of our great volunteers will be happy to help you out.
All right, let's find Gene a really good home, folks. He sure does need it. And thank you so much, Allison.
You're very welcome.
If you didn't get to sip on a mint julep drink during the Kentucky Derby early this month, now is your chance. It's National Mint Julep Day, and if the refreshing Southern drink is your beverage of choice, it's the perfect time to celebrate. All you need is a mint leaf, bourbon, sugar, and water to make the Kentucky Derby favorite. So while you're getting those ingredients, here's some quick facts about the drink. It's alleged folks in the southern states started drinking it in some time during the 18th century. The world's julep is generally defined as a sweet drink, particularly used to help medicine go down. Every year, Churchill Downs serves almost 120,000 mint juleps over the 2-day period of the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby.
Wow, I'm just fascinated with this drink.
It reminds you of a mint chocolate.
Okay, at first, I'm not really an avid drinker.
You don't well sarcasm well.
I didn't know it was alcohol. When I first looked at it, I was like, mint julep, is that like a mint chocolate thing, you know, like a York peppermint patty? I'm like, oh, it sounds kind of good. What is it?
I actually like York peppermint patties.
Right?
Yeah,
and then it was like alcohol, and I was like, oh.
Well, let me just get my mint. It says all you need is a mint leaf right here in the pocket.
Yeah. Oh my God, I thought he was going to pull one out.
I was like, you have a mint? I was going to
Let's see, bourbon and sugar and
water
and we're
and the mint. But I don't know how like sugar and water go. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a bartender. I am not, and we know that you love mint juleps.
I love mint juleps.
Miranda, can you make one and let us know if it's good?
Sure, I got you.
Like and subscribe. We hope that you will be with us every weekday at 5:30.
We invite you to join us again at 6 on ABC 16.
We'll see you there. Good night.